Sabrina Runbeck. Welcome to Food Experience Unplugged.
Hi, how are you, Michelle? Thank you so much for having me here. And thanks everyone for listening in. You can be anywhere and you choose us, so we appreciate it.
Definitely. Oh, Sabrina, it is such an exciting time to have you on the show as far as productivity and so much more. But to get started, will you take a moment to introduce yourself and what brought you to this point in your life and career? And some people call you the queen of performance and productivity. So I want to know, as does everyone, what exactly does that mean? So will you tell us among everything else, please?
Oh, I'm so appreciative taking me the space. I was someone just your typical busy bee. When I was little, I'm an only child. All my cousins are boys, and in a family of Asian, usually is that the boys get to certain type of career, right? Run their business and go into politics, whatnot. And girls should be, oh, you're smart, but get a degree, get a job, marry off, you should be all set. And my rebellious side is like, oh, no. And then I will be the smartest out of the family. So end up going to 2 bachelor degrees, 2 masters, got myself a medical license, going into one of the toughest medical subspecialty, heart and lung surgery. And people think I'm nuts. Why are you wanting to always be on your feet, going to these tough cases all the time? And I was like, nothing really interested me. So I like to be hands-on with the patient, seeing these dramatic changes, getting them out of that typical life and death situation. But because I would put myself in the spot, getting into one of the best heart and lung surgery center in the world, where people fly internationally to see us, and you're working 80 plus hours. There's never really an off day. You can't have your patients calling holidays on you. And I realized one morning I was exhausted. So only 8 o'clock. I took call the night before, and I was running a fever of 101 degrees. At the time, I was completely scrubbed in with my hands inside a patient's open chest, doing all that I had just to keep going. Now, typically, I'm someone who's chatting, listen to music, hey, doing whatnot. And the reason is the work should be fun, right? And then no matter what, you get something out of it. But that day, while I was coughing, while I was just staring, and couldn't really concentrate as much as I wanted to. And even the surgical staff, the nurses took pity on me and keep passing cough drops under my mask so that I can keep going. Now, of course, we all know this. We get a cough and cold. It's okay. We just feel like, just go to work. It'll pass. Now, the next day when I woke up, covered with night sweat, can't even get out of the bed to go use the restroom. Like, well, girl, I guess this is it. You have to take a sick day. So that's the very first time in my professional career, I officially took a sick day. But the other end was, Sabrina, you didn't thought to tell us sooner? Like, we can plan when we're gonna take the sick day. Like, people didn't know that you are already in a bad shape. And whether that is we got numbed by the environment we created because we see sick patient all day, every day, or are we only concentrating this little bubble that we're seeing and not actually connecting with the team and environment we put ourselves in? So I realized, actually, I have to take that ownership to say, I put myself in this spot. Yes, I can complain about the system, complain about not having enough staff to run the service, but I still say yes to be able to do all this. So then management, so the higher up saying, if you can handle it, why should we rock the boat, right? And I think it's so much a repetition in every high functioning environment is that we say yes to this position, to how we are being treated, how we're lack appreciated, or how what we wanted to accomplish wasn't even seen because the way that we've been conditioned to do. And you're the one who throw the rock in the middle of the pond, and that create a ripple effect. And but before we can honestly face ourselves to that point, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep complaining, and we're gonna have nothing that changing in our life. So I had to go back from the beginning. Before medicine, I had a background in neuroscience and public health. And back at that time, my thesis was on self-care, stress management, self-efficacy. And what I found was when we truly wanted to accomplish something, it's not about looking at all the things we want to do, but that one thing. And we have to truly believe ourselves on accomplishing that one thing, right? And then we can just take those smaller steps to get that done. And so I pivoted from, wow, is this not working? I clearly have the letters behind my name, the reputation, the hospital. But if I think that's life, can I sustain it in the next 5, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years? Probably can't even sustain it in the next 6 months. So what's the point? That's the turnaround for me to then spend more hours and money to train myself in a place, and then learning even more from positive psychology, cognitive behavior, and devote even more to neuroscience on how can we elevate everyone's productivity as a team and gain time back. That's why I created my 6-step process called the healthcare peak performers.
Okay, wow. And Queen of Performance and Productivity. How did you get that name, or is that the self-proclaimed?
Actually, one of my coach on high performance, and he told me one day, if everyone I train can get things done as much as you do, that will be amazing. You should really be the queen of productivity.
Ah, nice. For absolutely. Wow. That is quite a shift career-wise, because you were full on in the medical field, you're doing surgeries, and then all of a sudden, okay, I want to move over toward productivity. Or was it more of a gradual type of thing that to shift in that direction?
It is a gradual, and I still are spending days on my clinical medicine on this heart and lung surgery side, but have set days and time where I do public speaking, running my own podcast show, and doing healthcare leadership advisory side. So I'm really in a place to say, whatever our talent skills we have, let's figure out what's true desire. And no matter what, whether you're staying at where you are or start to exploring, it's fine and it's so doable, and you can get to that true high level of potential that creates endless momentum. And not the false belief for a lot of people, oh no, it's just that one company, it's just that one environment. If I only sell my business, everything will be fine, right? It's not that way. It's actually, do we understand ourselves now? Can I master that part of me? And then no matter what I do, what I want, it will happen.
Okay, so and you specifically focus on healthcare professionals, helping them manage their time, their productivity, their talents.
Correct. I know that burnout is such a big issue, and in the past year especially, we have been more open about discussing these topics, and many psychologists, healthcare professionals start coming out on different ways that they are able to help people to overcome burnout. And we also know that there are 200% higher chance of suicidal ideation, which is the end stage of burnout in healthcare professional as compared to average American. Now, I believe it's not so much the burnout that we wanted to overcome, it's that we all have so much that we wanted to achieve, wanted to be recognized. So how do I get to the next level without feeling stuck, right? And that's the burnout will give you, is that feeling stuck up there, never ending, right? This roller coaster, how can I get off? It's about getting off that, right? Have a significant interrupt, realizing where you are and truly understand that aim. It's not so much about burning out, it's that you start losing what you want out of life. And you still get trapped in just being busy and doing so much. And that it's the overwhelm that we created. There's actually two types of overwhelm, right? There's the hydraulic and the euphoric. So the hydraulic is that drinking from a fire hose, right? I'm just getting everything in, but not necessarily anything that I enjoy. It felt like obligation, drivefulness, right? When we talk about freedom compass. And then euphoric is like, no, it is stuff I'm so interested at, and I think I'm able to do. But then we don't know when to say yes, when to say no to the right thing. We just keep adding things onto our list. And then you are never going to finish that list. And when we feel like, oh, I only cross off 80% of my list, I don't feel good, right? And it's never self-rewarding, but it's constantly moving target at the next point. And instead of understanding how much and rewarding how much you have accomplished.
Okay. So the first one is everything's coming at you. The second one is basically you're creating your own demise almost. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Now, you mentioned a 6-step process to hopefully prevent burnout or manage. Will you tell us about that, please?
Yeah. So for us to perform at the higher level, I actually believe is number one, we have to redefine our desire. That means when we are younger, right? The constant question is, what do you want to do when you grow up? And then the question starts shifting, right? When we are nowadays, as we're grown as a professional, the first question you ask, like, hey, I am so and so, what do you do? Well, what's your name? What do you do? Somehow that doing part becomes our identity instead of who you are as a person. What are you actually making impact, right? What are you going in the world? So those are the questions that we needed to start with. Is that, okay, fine. If money is your driver, then what could money bring you? What's the necessity that you want out of life, right? Is that status? Is that material? Is that relationship? Is that just wanted to be in the know, right? Is that, what is it that you truly want? And then is that what the impact you wanted to create? If we start losing that, then of course we feel like you're on the merry-go-round, right? The same thing over and over again. And our next step that leading into defining really clarity in this goal of life, and it's all the reasons behind it, that also help you to tap into how to regenerate endless momentum, right? When people have New Year resolution, last quarter planning, right? We're like, yay, so excited. Let's finish the year with a bang. Or New Year comes, we can start fresh. Can you actually create something, a goal that you will be able to keep going and not feeling like, oh my God, right? Small things like fitness, the best example that people feel like, oh, I have a food journey. I planned out my workout. I even meal prepped. I did so much work for 2 months and I lost only 4 pounds. I'm like, oh, okay. Let's rethink that, right? Is it the weight that you want it? Or is it feeling good? What are the true measure that you want, right? Because if we spend all this work and then feel like the reward is the itty bitty, of course no one wanted to keep going. So maybe that measurement of what the reward is not really realistic, or it's not actually what you wanted, right? And if we can really be clear in the beginning of setting the right goal, then we will be able to keep going. And also then we talk about how to create micro steps. Right? The thought process is not so much of I have to have all the skills to do. I have to learn all this. In medicine, a lot of time it's that way. Oh, what degree do you have? What certification, right? And then you become, you're treating someone else by their title, not by their experience, what they can actually create for you. Just because people who has the same title, same specialty, it doesn't mean that person is going to have the right resource to help you, right? We all know that. Like, why do we even get second opinions? So that's the momentum part. So number one, we need to know where are we going? What do we really want to create? Who am I as a person? And then number two is generating continuous momentum with the simple steps that you can always feel good about, and then you can keep going. And then it's what? Okay, so once I start moving forward, that is about our mind. How do I master our mental fitness, right? So we can get out of our own way. And in positive psychology, we know there are 10 different categories of self-sabotaging tendencies. Do you even know which one you are? Which one do you have? Because they're just personas that we create in our mind based on how we got raised up, what we learned from society, right? Social media, our friends, family, right? Everyone else has this, a conception of what's right, what's wrong, what's okay, what's not. But do you have your own way and not feeling like being bombarded by other people? And then do you have a certain type of way that you thought, oh, it helped me to get to a certain point? For example, the high achievers. Now, the high achievers sabotaging tendency tells us only if you're the chief of your department, you're the CEO, only if you're the person who has made your 50K monthly revenue, then people will see you as a valuable member. Then people will see you as someone who they wanted to connect with. So if we continue to be in the if-then conditional state of a higher title, a status, then we always feel like once we get to that level, finally, right? We work so hard, hustle, get to that point. And once you get that point, how long does that happiness last? Right? And
time.
Yeah, right. Like the question when I had my signature talk, I asked people, remember the last time you felt super happy? Doesn't matter what happened, right? What was it? And how long did it last? Hours, days, weeks, months, years? Now, every time I talk to someone about this, and they can tell me, oh, this is a big thing. I made this big deal. Like, oh, I implement this new process, or even individually, when my patient had really got rid of all the pain and they were thanking me for, like, amazing. So really, how long did it last? And most people is like hours to days. No one ever said months to years, right? It's because immediately our gear kicks in, our judgment kicks in to say, well, great, awesome, you accomplished that, but what about the next thing? Somehow your attention won't allow yourself to even enjoy it, right? You're already moving on. Right? So we needed to be able to identify these and then doing neuroremodulating exercise to then master and control our psychology, so then we can pivot into the areas that we can truly empower ourselves and others, right? How do we want to do something? You just activate and not just dragging your feet. And then you become a procrastinator. Then you're like, oh, I don't even know what to do. Or I'm too scared about what if it actually becomes successful? Then what's next, right? Or people who aren't needing to be more resourceful. Oh my God, I'm supposed to have this partnership with this person to do this project, and they backed out last minute. Now I'm so alone. Stop playing the victim, right? You can be more resourceful. So all these combination is the third step, mastering our psychology. And then, so we know what we want. We know how to keep going. We know how to get out of our own way. And then what? We need to know how to regenerate energy, because in time management is not so much managing time, but it's managing your energy, right? How do you focus how much energy you're putting into something and someone, knowing there are vampire suckers out there all the time, right? Do we even know? In study, we have only 2 to 3 hours maximum in 24 hours a day that are your peak performance hours. Now, there's 4 different type of human cycles out there. Do you even know where do you land? Right? Are you someone who can just identify that, so then you can use these hours for your most creative work, most innovative work for your career, your company, instead of letting other people take over your demand, right? And then, of course, by the time you start going downhill of your natural energy cycle, and then you can't focus enough to have all these new ideas come out of you, right? And then once you know your natural cycle, how do you change that within 2 minutes, right? There's a exercise that I teach. It's called mini mental vacation. So under 2 minutes, we incorporate anything from breathing, proprioception, redirect attention to highlighting one of our senses. Even just 2 minutes, bring back your focus and your energy. And there are a lot of these little 2 minutes in a day, right? And then people usually waste it by what? Being on their phone, scrolling social media, checking text messages, emails, and then you got into whirlwind of just chaos. And then 5-10 minutes goes by, you're like, what did I just do? Or even most people is like stuck on there for an hour, and they're like, oh, I still have to charts that I need to review. I still have to make that phone call, right? Time just seems like gone. And you're already so tired, you don't want to do anything that you used to feel enjoyable. So number one, again, we review is knowing where you're headed, redefine your aim. Number 2 is regenerate endless momentum. Number 3 is remaster your psychology. And number 4 is regenerate energy, right? Reboot your energy. And number 5, that is getting the nitty-gritty where everyone is want to know is how do you recreate time, right? And that means it's the concept of freedom compass. And some people who follows Michael Hyatt might have heard this, is that our freedom is really created 2 major things. Your talent, right? Your natural true gifts, whether it's just you're born with, or because you learned, right? People who are in medicine, you learn to be the best doctor, right? Or the best APP, the best chiropractor. And people in business, you might be the best copywriter, the best sales coach, the best marketer, right? And so those are our core skills. But on top of that, are they come to you easy? Like natural flowing, you so enjoy, you do these things, it just brighten up your day, right? And if it's both the enjoyable side of passion and proficient, marry that, that's your desire zone. What if you only have the proficiency? Well, it comes too easy to me, like some people who love making Excels, tracking all their data point, right? And then doing research. It's easy for them and it's good if they know statistics so well. Okay, but what if they don't like it? That's called disinterest zone, right? Okay. And what if it's your passion, things you love to do, and you wanted to get more, you even maybe wanted to create something your own. So things like people get into crypto, for example, and you might have seen the growth potential, but you don't know much. And then what? It's a distraction because you're going to spend so much more money and time just to play, just to learn. But you're not an expert. So you're actually spending a lot more time and money doing something and not giving you a significant of ROI, instead of hiring the people who already know this, right? Like small business people, like building your website. Why would you do it yourself when you can just hire someone, build it very perfectly to your liking, and then have all the SEO built in, instead of you spending hours on that, getting so frustrated, this thing is not changing, right? And it's like, why am I still doing this? Well, maybe initially you thought it's like a fun thing because you like tech, but it's completely different language that you never learned, right? So that's why we call it distraction. Now, of course, then is the fourth zone is the dreadful zone, the obligations you don't like to do, you don't have the skill to do, and then you're just like, oh, darn it. And most people, surprisingly, or not surprisingly, lives in the zones outside their desire more than 80% of the time. And in reality, we should figure out how do we get ourselves out of all these other three zones and only live in our desire zone more than 80% of the time. Okay, that's why we have decision fatigue.
Absolutely. So I guess the key is how do people stay in that desire zone?
Right. And there's a few things that I talk to my clients about. It's decrease amount of decision you have to make, decrease how value the time amount of people can access to you, right? And then is when it's come down to you, how do you be able to say anything out there in life? I only have 5 decisions to make, and therefore I'm no longer overwhelmed thinking about all the possibility. So what are 5 in the focus funnel? Number 1 is eliminate. Is it truly aligning with step number 1, right? My vision, my desire. And maybe my desire for this week, my top 3 is going to change week to week, month to month, and that's okay. And that's the point for us to reflect and be clear. And if it's not, then immediately it's eliminate, no question asked, right? And that's why our psychology, mastering that psychology, is very important here, right? Get out of your own way. Once you say no, be comfortable with that no.
Yeah.
And number 2 is create some type of automation. Things just work on its own. For example, people cannot get on the calendar just to have a call with me. They have to go through a process of an online booking where there's a survey that they need to tell me what the appointment is about. And there are only set amount of time that I block out, whether you want a virtual coffee chat or a complimentary consultation. Now, this complimentary consultation only comes by referrals. One way is just like you heard me talking on Michelle's show, and that will allow you to have a conversation with me. And I'm willing for you to look at how you are with your life, with your practice, and how do we optimize your time. And then the other thing is it's you set up these things specifically on certain time of the day, certain week, that you allow people to just get on your calendar, and not to say, hey, I'm free this time, let's just talk, right? That's unintentional and not prepared at all. Then you're gonna be on the phone all day, every day. How do you have time for anything else you want to do? So that's the automation. And automation also means auto reminders. Messages go out that it doesn't need additional labor that you need to do, right? The thank you notes sometimes that if you wanted to make it personal, handwrite it, but it doesn't mean that you have to remember, oh, someone's birthday is coming up. Maybe you can already pre-plan all these things and you just go out automatically. And then it does lead to the next point, is out delegating. Now the controllers who are listening to this is like, I don't know about this. I can do this so much faster than if I have to spend time teaching someone. I get you, right? Like we all have some of that in us. But if you don't allow other people to do or teach them, let's just say they can only do 80% what you can do. That still save you that much time. You just only need to make 20% of the correction, right? And that's a lot better. I have clients who running their own practice wouldn't even hire a maid to clean up their office. They'll stay extra late. I'm like, whoa. Do you know you're just giving money away? How much money would you make per hour? And guess how much the maid will cost you? Maybe 20, 50 bucks an hour. So you just dropped your 250 hour value down to a fraction of that. You just lowered your own self, right? Why would you do that? And then isn't it that extra hour, 2 hour cleaning up the office? That time you can use to spend time with your family, to do something you actually enjoy. And most of you guys think about, what's your hobby? Is that a foreign concept? Or you actually thought, oh yeah, I know. But can you actually do it every week and to enjoy it? So then what else? If we can't eliminate, we cannot automate, we cannot delegate, we have to do it on ourselves. Then it's the split between delay and concentrate. Delay means even the things might take you 5-10 minutes to do, but multiple 5-10 minutes is going to rob your time. So is this task actually going to create time in the future and making bigger impact? And not just like, it sounds like. If you have to question it, it's a no. And if it's something you're so sure, for me, is I enjoy speaking on other podcasts, medical and business conferences, because I can immediately reach many people and you can adapt the concept right away. So it is aligning with my goal of how I create impact. So therefore, I'm willing to fill the paperwork as a speaker, block out time to record a show. Now, if something is not aligned, then I cannot concentrate on this, right? And even when you concentrate, it's not to say someone asks you to do, you have to do it now. You still have to match based on your energy, right? What we talked about earlier. Not just drop everything. Oh my gosh, I feel like I have to get it to people. You can't be split into 10 different places for everyone. And no one is able to do that for you either. So it's okay to give yourself that grace, that empathy to say, I'm only going to concentrating things on certain blocks of time. And now feeling like I have to immediately respond. Just like technology nowadays, you have your phone glued to your hip. And when was the last time you left your phone at home? You're like, oh my God, the world's going to end.
Oh, Sabrina, will you give us an example or two of medical professionals, or I guess other professionals with whom you've worked, who have really taken this by storm and really controlled the burnout, all of the stress that's involved in that?
Yeah, most people who I work with are business leaders, practice owners. They're either in medical, dental, chiropractic, some are functional medicine, even therapists. People really see that I don't want to work with a larger organization, or if I want to grow my practice and serve my community the way that I want to, either locally or virtually. And they have established their practice for at least 1 to 2 years. Now they're in a place, I'm making good revenue, I'm making connections with my patients, but I feel like there's more to that. I don't want it to constantly feeling like I just have no time and bring extra work to home. And when I'm home, my family feel like I'm never really there with them. My mind's somewhere else, right? And as a team, we know it's very crucial to be able to attract talent to you and repel the people who are not good to be in that inner circle, right? Because we spend so much time with each other, every single aspect is impacted. And we don't want that rotten apple to spoil the whole basket, right? And it's okay to let some people and some things go. And that's important with our psychology. And also understanding there's a different inner human desire and needs that need to be met. And that means the leader need to really have understanding of what these are. How do you have a conversation to bring out those needs so you can help to fulfill that intrinsic need? And also extrinsic, how do people feel appreciated, right? The number one study shown that the key factor on employee retention and lack of the increase of productivity is actually based on appreciation. Not that you give them more salary or any bonus or autonomy or training. It's actually just being valued, thinking just like our step number one, right? You actually did something that you felt good, that aligned with the desire and purpose you have in life, but you need to be recognized, appreciated the way that people want to feel appreciated, not just say, oh, well, I tell them, well, we have a little holiday parties, but that might not be what people thought. It would just seem to be like, well, you do this for everyone. It's not making them feel special.
Okay, wow. So they've been able to really turn their own lives around from that burnout, whether they're performing surgery or in some aspect of their business. That is amazing. Well, Sabrina, if you could select one thing that is really the most impactful as to how people can get started with this, what would you say that the first step in that direction would be?
I think for people who feel they're just constantly tired, then I would encourage them to learn about the 2-minute mental mini vacations, right? Those small changes, at least set yourself into a better state mentally. And then so you can redirect your focus to make the best decision. For the people who are constantly just feeling like they need more time, actually the first step is for you to be able to have that conversation with someone, whether it's someone like me who's trained in that, or even a colleague or family member who also be in that open space to have a dialogue on where you are headed and where you are now, and be pretty vulnerable about these things. So then you can realize, I actually making all the right decisions that matches where I want to go, and stop trying to adapt all these tools, all these things, because what works for others might not necessarily work for you. So we need to be very individualized to plan and figure out our way to create that time freedom, and not feeling like I just constantly need to add more things, add more systems into my business or my career.
I love that. I love just really individualizing the attention and the direction that they need to go. Fantastic. Well, Sabrina, how can people get in contact with you?
I am active on LinkedIn, and you can search my name, Sabrina Runbeck, and that's the same handle on all social media platforms. And for those who are running their healthcare private practice and wanted to see, is there more that they can create? And I'm happy to have a conversation with you. You can go to sabrinarunbeck.com/blueprint. Let's see if we can create your own unique blueprint to get there.
Love that. Oh, and your own blueprint. That's fantastic. And just, I love the work that you're doing, Sabrina. It has been a pleasure having you on the show and helping so many professionals to really regain their own productivity so that they can help others. So thank you so much, Sabrina.
Thank you, Michelle, for having me. Thanks for listening to us, everyone.